Hi, everyone. I'm Matt, founder and CEO of LiveSchool. This is the LiveSchool podcast, and our guest today is Ashley White, assistant principal at McKinley Pre-K 8, and that's in City of York, Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Yeah.
Yes, very honored. Thank you.
So why don't we just dive in with some of the fun stuff? Tell us a little bit about, as a student at your school, what are some of the rewards, incentives, different experiences that you and your team have put together?
So, here at McKinley Pre-K to 8, we are very big on providing our students opportunities in which their talents and skills and their true selves get to shine. So, they do have voice in the student rewards that they're provided. We do push out surveys to them to allow them to have a say in what they want to see in the school store, what they might want to have happen for our monthly rewards, so that they're interested and they have the buy-in. But we have done everything from specific grade level rewards where our younger students have done graffiti art in our hallways on posters together. We've done like a chalk the walk outside where the students get to color on the sidewalks and make them beautiful.
Hmm.
One of our more favorite events here at McKinley is our Friendsgiving, our school-wide quarterly event in November. All of our grades, even up to our middle schoolers, we watch Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and then each grade level respectively has their own Thanksgiving meal.
Oh, wow.
Some of our teams go all out and do the full, turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans, all the things. Some will just use, the video on popcorn, but that's a big thing for us here at McKinley. Um, Throughout the months, again, we have our normal grade level rewards and things that teachers plan, but our other big hits
Cool.
are our May days at the end of the year, and we go all out for those bounce houses, dunk tank. This year, we partnered with Rita's Italian Ice to provide Italian ice for our VIP students. VIP students came from our PSSA rewards because we had testing. We finished with testing right before the May Day,
Cool.
so that was a great incentive for them to work really, really hard on their state testing. And provide them a little something extra to show our appreciation for their hard work. So we definitely go big, I'll say.
Yeah, seriously. Sounds like a lot going on. You mentioned student voice, so
Yeah.
important. So you have a survey. I think you mentioned, did you say monthly or quarterly? How often do you survey students?
So in the past, when school store was kind of getting a little boring, we'll say, and the
Hmm.
students weren't really, interested in the rewards, um, we kind of just put out the surveys as needed. We have a
Cool.
catalog. My teachers that run the school store, who are phenomenal, do a digital, like, online form for students to kind of browse what is on the cart each month. And then they fill out their order form based on the number of points that they have. But those surveys allow students to select, options that we already have. Like, hey, I really like this. Keep giving me this as an option. Um, or we provide them with kind of choices that they can choose from based on what we can, provide. Or if there's free things, one of the things this past school year that was a huge hit that we actually had to take off of the school store was morning announcement MC with me because I do our morning announcements. I was very popular with my littles, like my first and second graders bought me out. We ran out of days of school to use the
Oh,
tickets,
wow.
but they would get
No
to buy
way.
a ticket. Yes.
Yeah,
I had a stack about this thick still at the end of the school
that's
year that
so cool.
we didn't get through. So that was definitely one that they loved.
Wow, that's amazing. Uh, do you do announcements every morning?
Every day. Yep.
So that's seriously sold out. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. That's so cool.
Yes.
Um, you also mentioned that teachers actually plan monthly grade level incentives, which
I
is so
do.
awesome. I think they're probably able to personalize those even more to the grade level and kind of what kids are interested in. I'm
Yes.
curious though, teachers have a lot on their plate. How did you get that buy in for teachers to take that on? I'm sure they love it now because once you pull off a great reward, the benefits are so clear, but it is a lot of work.
It is. It is. I would say I was fortunate. So this will be my third year here at McKinley, and I was fortunate coming into a building where staff already had a strong sense of collaboration. We call
Mm,
it the McKinley magic, and the magic is that um, it's everybody every day. Like, everyone
mm.
here in this building pitches in because we all put kids first 100% every single day. And whatever that looks like, they're pretty much willing to go that mile if they know and understand that what the purpose is, what the outcome is going to be for them, and being able to do it, in an organized clear, concise manner. So we provide them time every month during their PLC meetings or even grade level meetings to plan out their monthly rewards. So it's not
Mm,
kind of time that's stolen from them or that they have
right.
to really work through on their own. Um, and I have, documents that they just fill out ahead of time for what they want to do, what supplies or support they might need in terms of staffing, what time they want to hold their event, and then they submit those to me. We typically have never had an issue with sharing space in the building despite, our 9 grade levels here, but um, I just compile one schedule for the day that we do our events, and they kind of rock and roll. And it is one of my most
Awesome.
favorite days out of every school year is just to
I
see our
bet.
kids getting to be kids, getting to see our adult staff like participate and have fun with the kids. It brings a lot of joy to the building for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially like to have 9 different
Yes.
things going on in different areas, like different energy. That's really, really cool. And yeah, just need to hear that it sounds like you really create some structure,
Yes.
but you're not doing the heavy, heavy lifting like teachers are
Correct.
taking on. So it sounds like a great collaboration,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
Going back, how did you all decide to first implement like a positive school-wide system? What was that process like?
So I was fortunate enough to be part of the district level team that kind of initiated the work. And it started back, I want to say, in 2016. We, as a district committee, went to Pittsburgh to Woodland Hills School District,
Hmm.
um, who faced a lot of disconnectedness because they were mandated by that area to combine schools. So there was a lot of sides, a
Mm,
lot of conflict, I'll say, in trying to unify everybody together. And one of the things that they did, they completely wiped every building from having their kind of own identity to a certain extent with their mascots.
mm.
That was one of the biggest things that was kind of eye opening. So they have one mascot for the entire district.
Wow.
And they went, I mean, all in on the expectation. So it was a great model to see, the unification, number one, that we are all this. I don't remember what their
Sure.
mascot was, but we are all this, we are all here for the same cause. We have our expectations, and they were very diligent about the intentionality behind teaching those expectations, modeling them, practicing them, and reinforcing them.
Mm,
So I got to see it firsthand, which really motivated me to bring it back to the building that I was in. I was able to be a PBIS coach in one of my former roles as an educator and helped the building that I was in achieve their fidelity status. And then I was also a part of the district committee that vetted, platforms such as LiveSchool to
mhm.
bring to enhance our acknowledgement system. And I had actually wrote the proposal to bring LiveSchool to the district. So it's something that's, when it comes up, it's always very near and dear to my heart. It is a district initiative that all schools in our district are PBIS schools. So we are in the PBIS, um, PAPBS network for the state.
Mhm.
And a huge celebration point for McKinley is that just 3 school years prior, so back to 21-22, we had one of the lowest fidelity scores in the district at 53%. The goal is 70, but for me, I've told the staff 70 is not good enough for me. That's like a C, borderline D. If we're looking at a grade, that's not enough. So I always want to aim high. And this school year, we came out at a 93%.
Wow, and you said you started at what?
53, and that was just 3 years
Wow.
ago.
53 to 93. That's
Yes,
incredible.
even with
That's
our
so cool.
live school use, 3 years ago, the average live school use per month by staff was only, I want to say, at like 53%, if that.
Mhm.
And we averaged 96% this year.
Wow.
We had,
That's an A.
yes, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months where we were either at 100% or just under at
Wow,
98.
that is
So,
incredible.
yeah.
Um, I would definitely say one of the things that we see across the country when folks are trying to get PBIS up and running or just sustain it, keep it fresh, is that
Mhm.
teacher buy-in piece.
Yeah.
So I'd love to hear more about. I mean, I know you have the magic, so that's on your side. But in addition to the magic, what are some of the practices and approaches that have helped hit those incredible, levels?
So I think, I mean, among some of the bigger things, one of the main key points that I've come to learn over just being in a few different buildings now in various roles is just the mindset. Sometimes the mindset is that kids should just know what
Mm,
we want them to do. especially working in a K-8 building, our middle schoolers who are, getting ready for high school, they're 14, 15 years old, where they should just know what to do, right? Or,
Mm.
some of the comments that I've heard in the past from, prior roles was, why should I reward a student for doing something that they should just do, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So part of that is the gentle push of the mindset shift to understand that, ultimately we are still working with children and they're still figuring out what that looks and feels like for them as a child developmentally. So they're still going to mess up.
Mm.
They're still in that discovery phase of like, what limits can I push? What happens if I do this? But also just learning those regulation strategies that they often miss.
Yeah.
And we are very much here at McKinley in a shared mindset that if we don't teach them, we can't expect them to do any better. So while yes, academics are important, um, which we saw a lot of growth in our test scores this school year, I think because our culture and climate has shifted so much towards the positive, but that our staff here truly, and just to recognize and honor them, realize that they don't teach content, right? Like I don't have a math teacher, I don't have just a social studies teacher. We teach children
Mm.
um, to be productive and learn what that struggle looks like. And when I am struggling, what are the things that I can do because they might not have that model elsewhere.
Yeah.
So it's mindset, and I think the other components that I've found success with is just clearly communicating what the expectations are, why we're doing this, why it's important, what is it going to get us in the long run.
Mm.
Um, Monitoring it regularly, checking in with the staff, making sure they have access, making sure they know how to use, the tools and resources that they have. And just being curious about why things might not be going well. It's not a critical point for me to
Mm.
live in. To me, criticism often comes with judgment, and judgment's not a safe place to be. So
Mm.
if I'm curious about, something that's not going well, it comes with care, but it also comes with accountability and understanding that, we always want to make sure we're doing the right thing and the best thing for kids, because at the end of the day, they are who we are affecting.
Mm. So many good points there. One thing that really stands out to me, you hit on that, like that mindset approach of why should we recognize or even reward behaviors that should just be expected. And I think a lot of times people start to frame that as like, that looks like you're just bribing kids to do the right thing.
Right.
But I think one of the things that you just really hit on is that the incentive isn't the main thing, it's the teaching what it looks like. And the
Right.
incentive is just a tool to do that. And if
Right.
you rethink about it that way, I mean, it can be a little daunting because you realize, wow, like students might not know a lot of these behaviors that we expect, but that's the work, that's the challenge, is
Right.
to teach them
Right.
that stuff, right?
Right.
So many great points there. If you could go back in time, I mean, it sounds like you all have done incredibly well, but any advice that you would have for yourself, like things you would want to do differently or learn earlier, things like that?
I think, I mean, I'm I would say I'm naturally a curious person. So if I know that there's something that I'm passionate about that I want to make sure, something goes well, that I need to convey to staff, that passion has to come out. And one of the
Mm.
things that has been a huge reflective piece for me as a leader is a few years ago when I had started out in this role, I was taking courses through the state, to build up my credit hours for my certification. And the facilitators had asked a question of us: if we were to come into your building and we would ask your staff, what does Ashley value the most? What's important to her? What would they say? And at the time, in a different building, I didn't know that my staff would confidently be able to answer that, because I didn't think that my authenticity really shined through, because I was still
Mm.
kind of figuring out the role. It was also right after the pandemic, so nobody really knew what we were doing.
You're like, I've
Um,
barely seen her face. It's behind a mask all the
Not
time.
allowed to see, right.
Yeah.
So that has really stuck with me since then,
Mm.
and I really take that into, the work that I do day to day, and it is something that, um, I'm very intentional about. At the end of every school year, I
Mm.
ask our staff, "How did I do?" Like, what do you think I did well this year? What did I not do? What would you like to see me improve upon? Because while I know and I think I have in my head, that's my perception, but it might not be the reality. So
Yeah.
it's important for me to gain that feedback. And I know that the steps that I've taken to, be more transparent about, like, specifically in terms of PBIS, like, why do we monitor the things that we do? Why do we track the data that we do? Why is
Mm,
it important to do what we do? Um, and be able to present it to staff has really allowed them to see, like, my true passion for it, the reason for it, but has also really helped them with that buy-in piece because they know it's something that matters to me, but I think I've made it make sense in a way that matters to them too. Not just
mm.
because we want to make Ashley happy, but because we know that it's what's best for kids.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like there's been a lot of communicating and
Yes.
communicating just the why behind
Yes.
things, which I'm sure it takes a lot, puts a lot on you to sometimes really boiling that down and distilling it. It's like you might know it's the right thing to do, but to actually be able to find the words and lay it out in a way that other people can see and buy into, that's a harder thing to
Yes.
do. It's not like
Yes.
you're the one giving out all the points or having all the interactions. Um,
Right.
yeah, and any learnings around that? I think just that's a general leadership challenge, and I'm curious,
Yeah.
just how have you found the best way to explain the purpose behind some of these things that take a lot of effort?
So my principal and I both, and again, I want to make sure I honor, like, everybody here. When I have an amazing teammate in leadership in my principal
Yeah,
here. We both are very servant leaders that operate in just the goodness of treating other people well.
yep,
From a research standpoint, like, research shows that the appreciation and acknowledgement in the workplace goes a long way, right? People
mm,
don't leave jobs, they leave people. And so being able to come to a place and want to come to a place that you feel valued, you feel heard, you feel like you have a voice at the table, and you feel like you have the autonomy to do what's in the best interest of kids is the environment and the conditions that we strive to create here and to continue to uphold here at McKinley. Um, and we know and recognize, especially working in an urban environment, that we face a lot of challenges that others might not. um, some of our kids come in with very complex needs, complex trauma, chronic stress,
mm,
on top of being faced with, environmental issues that are outside of their control. So the
yeah,
best thing we can do when they come into this environment is honor and recognize those things, not hold them against our kids, but
mm,
really prove the possibility of the greatness that they hold. And I'd say hands down that we have the best kids in the county. I mean, they're wonderful. Um, so I think one of the moves that we're always very intentional and cognizant about is never being so far removed from the classroom that we lose the reality of
mm,
what we're asking the people in the front
yeah,
lines to do,
yeah,
but also finding ways that when we do get things that hit us first, as leaders, that typically things have to go top down. Um, we often find ourselves kind of disseminating that in ways that make the most sense for staff, even, like, especially when we feel that it doesn't, like, sit well initially, or we have questions or misunderstandings. Because the better that we can filter things to the staff for them to know and understand that, yes, this might be a hard expectation, or this might be a tight thing that we have to make sure this is a directive that we implement. We still need to make sure that you're able to do it. So whatever those
mm,
barriers are, whatever the red tape is, our staff have a place where they can voice those things, like, hey, I really don't understand this, or I don't have this resource, or I don't have this training, so that we know where we can better align our supports depending on
mm,
what that looks like. And it's, I mean, even that in and of itself has looked like a lot of different things that we've
yeah,
kind of just figured out and made work here at McKinley. Sometimes it's me going in and modeling, lessons and, PBIS realms of, information, or ways to, um, you know, hold a SEL lesson in the morning, or the ways to deliver how you teach the expectations in the hallway. My principal and I have also uniquely done dual walkthroughs and coaching sessions with teachers. So we're
Mm.
both going into classrooms. We're both able to
Wow.
see, what's going on, because it allows us to strengthen each other. I come from a very elementary, like lower primary background. He comes from the high
Hmm.
school.
Yep.
So he's able to see, kind of more of a middle school view than what I've had previous experience too, but vice versa. And that has really helped a lot, again, for us to strengthen our own leadership capacity, but to best support our teachers too.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like a just incredibly collaborative culture, and also I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, just the signal of leaders being willing to dive in and roll up their sleeves
Yeah.
is so important. And it doesn't sound like you're doing it just to do it or show you're doing it. It's like,
Right.
you want to help. If you need to plug
Absolutely.
in, you plug in.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Going back to just kind of the big picture of having this system and consistency and positive expectations and rewards,
Mhm.
have there been cool moments for you that have just been? I know you mentioned like the monthly, days where every grade team's doing a different reward. Those are some
Yeah.
of your favorite days, but I always love hearing about just like cool moments, cool times you've got to have with kids as a result.
I would say, I mean, speaking to just our culture in general, one of the cool things that I started to hear at the end of this past school year, we had a huge influx of enrollments, the most out of the district some months that we gained, 20, 30 kids in a month.
Wow.
Um, and one of the things that we do at McKinley is we do have student ambassadors that are leaders in the
Mm.
building. They're typically my sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, that get to have leadership roles around the building in various capacities that are aligned with what they feel that their strengths are. But not even them. Our student culture is that when these new students were coming into the building, I would come down and visit seventh and eighth grade lunch, fifth and sixth grade lunch here and there. But I remember specifically a few moments coming down to seventh and eighth grade lunch where I would either grab one of my, students that was kind of top tier, good behavior in class and all these things and a role model and say, hey, can you go, touch base with that student and let them know that they're not
Mm.
really meeting that expectation right now. But what I ended up hearing the students doing without prompting is telling the other students, like, hey, this is McKinley. We don't do that here. Like, when a teacher asks you to do X, Y, or Z, like, you do it. Like, you might not like it, but you do it. Like, we show our teachers
Mm.
respect. We take our hoods down. That's one of our non-negotiables here at the building for safety reasons. All of those things. So to hear the kids really like internalizing that,
Yeah.
and getting to know that like this is the way we do things here, and it feels good because I can come to school, I'm safe, I can learn, my teachers care about me. Um, Really speaks to my PBIS heart that they're getting it. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I think other than that, just the again the moments where our kids just get to be kids. Our seventh and eighth grade, our middle school students really do love partnering with our littles. So any opportunity that they get to just play outside at recess together, or go down to our K-1-2 classrooms and read books with them, or like integrate themselves into their centers or their station time, um, has been great. And just overall, again, those moments where we can just kind of kick back and have fun together is great. It's so good for the school community.
Yeah. Switching gears, maybe getting a little nerdier, talking about data. So, in terms of like as an AP having access to this classroom level
Yeah,
view of what's going on, I'm curious to know what have you explored? How have you used that data? What kinds of conversations it's invited?
wonderful. So every Monday here at McKinley, our student services team meets. It
Wow,
includes
every
our
Monday.
every Monday,
Yeah.
religiously at 10 o'clock every Monday, our student services team meets, and that team is comprised of our principal or myself, our school social worker, our school counselor, our school
Hmm.
psychologist, our MTSS specialist, and then we also are fortunate enough to have four community-based organizations housed in our building that
Oh
provide
wow.
different levels of therapeutic and family support for students,
Mm.
from anything from attendance to actual counseling to behavioral and academic challenges, things like that. So that everybody at that table meets. We have a process for teachers to request assistance, if they're having some difficulties with students or they have concerns that they want to bring to the team. So the team has a process where they will go through and discuss any new referrals. Um, any data attached to that student at that time is kind of brought up so the team can kind of decide, what the next step might be. Like, yes, okay, we've got a good amount of data. We can proceed with whatever is next.
Hmm.
Or no, we need some more data to kind of see, to make a better informed decision. Um, Other than that, our teachers will be fortunate enough to be able to meet in PLCs with their grade level teams, but their other supporting colleagues every day this school year. They'll meet first thing in the morning, which will allow them to have, a better amount of time with each other to collaborate and talk about student data. But on my end, at least once a month, our staff get to see our monthly discipline reports. So we do review
Mm.
those. They do have access to those on the back end anytime they want to pull a report to talk about
Mm.
what's happening in their grade level or with specific students. Um, and that data is shared on a weekly basis, then on my end, in something called our Magic Memo that I send out every Monday to staff, and it has all of our data points, all of our important dates, deadlines, all of those
Mm.
things. So it's very frequently communicated and used. And I would just say on top of that, our staff are very good about, that open level communication. Even if,
Yeah.
they already submitted the referral, they'll go to one of, our supporting staff or myself or, the principal and say, hey, this is what I'm noticing. This is what I've tried. I'm kind of at a loss. What's my next step? What can I do next?
Mm.
Which is great because we do have a lot of awesome resources here at the building available for our kids.
Yeah, that is so fantastic. Like to hear about those
Yeah,
partnerships,
yeah,
but also integrating that closely so you can use them the best way. I think is key.
absolutely.
Um, I would love to wrap up with some bigger picture questions. One we touched on a bit, but I want to hear more, which is kind of the debate between intrinsic and extrinsic
Ah,
motivation. Something that I think you might have thought about before. And I'm just really curious your take on what you've come to believe about. I don't want to say which one's more important or how they connect. What you've seen in terms of developing, whole students.
so based on some of the research that I've looked into and just in general, the motivation factors for kids and adults across the board, it is something innate. I mean, we're all motivated humans at some point for something. It's just a matter of finding out what that something is. Developmentally, I know and understand that our primary students do respond well to the extrinsic, the rewards, the tangible things that they can see. But it's a matter of pairing that with the even just the shift in the wording of like you must be so proud, you must feel so proud,
Mm.
rather than I'm proud of you, because that creates that kind of people pleasing, like, oh well, I'm just doing this X behavior to make you happy rather than me actually realizing that I feel good about it too.
Mm.
So even just that little shift in language, like I can tell you feel so happy about this, or um, I see you work so hard on this. That must feel so good.
Mm.
Just those type of things. And it just comes down to, I think relationships at the heart, just knowing
Mm.
what does motivate the kids. Sometimes it is the tangible, sometimes it is the extrinsic until you can build the intrinsic. And sometimes
Mm.
that comes from, and I can speak from an adult perspective, like sometimes if our own, self-awareness and our value isn't there, it's hard to feel that intrinsic motivation for something. And it does take a little bit of the external to build that up sometimes. So I think that, awareness that we can impart on our students and just have those transparent conversations like, yeah, it felt really good, to get that thing, to get my live school point, but it also meant more to me that you acknowledged
Mm.
me and not just, how I showed up or what I did, but literally me and my skill,
Mm.
my behavior, what's innate in me. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the differentiation between the two. I think they both work and they both have value. It's just a matter of really honing in on knowing knowing the individual, knowing that student,
Mm.
knowing the staff member, and knowing yourself.
Yeah. And last question,
Yeah.
if you could, let's say there was a billboard that every AP across the country was going to see on their way to work in the morning. Is there a message or something you would want to share out that's near and dear to your heart?
Ooh, that is a great question. What is near and dear to my heart that comes up that I hope and wish all educators do is the notion of don't count me out.
Mm,
I was personally the shy, quiet, but grades on point student in school. I came, I showed up, I did the work, I did above and beyond, often what was expected, but I didn't, I wasn't out there, right?
mm,
And I think sometimes in certain environments, educators can discredit students for possibilities based on things that are out of their control. And so my message would be to never count out or discredit the amazing possibility that innately lies in children. We just have to find a way to tap into it and expand it and let it radiate, into the universe.
rock on. Well, I want to be a student at your school after this conversation. Yeah. Am I too old to sign up?
Not at all. Come on over.
But seriously, thank you so much for your time. I know you've got a ton going on, but I hope
Absolutely.
others just get the infectious, some of the magic and the enthusiasm. And I think your
Yeah.
staff and students are so lucky to all collaborate together in the ways you've talked about.
Yeah.
So thanks
Thank
for joining the
you.
podcast today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.